The twisted truth of Conor McGregor. What's up guys, so the UFC recently has been home to a whirlwind of chaos. For one, we are currently witnessing one of the greatest UFC stars emerging beneath our own very eyes. We saw Jon Jones finally announce his retirement, which lasted only about a couple of weeks before he unretired himself. And we saw Dana confirm a huge White House card. Yes, the Octagon will be right outside the presidential suite, home to some of the greatest US presidents. With such announcements, every fighter is looking to get on this massive card, even the ones we all thought were gone from the game. In particular, Conor McGregor has announced his interest of returning through his leaked DMs with Dana, and this is not just talk from the once two-time champ, as we have been teased countless times before, but this time, Conor has re-engaged in the UFC testing pool and is confirmed to return back to the Octagon, most likely on this presidential card. But as we all know, over the past 4 years, Conor has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons, pairing the fact that his last two fights ended up in him seeing stars and noticeably not being anywhere close to the fighter he once was. The legacy of McGregor and his fighting future is fully on the line, especially with the very recent controversies that is now plaguing his name. But before we go more in depth on the twisted truth of McGregor and what the future entails, my name is Raph and this is a channel for everything MMA and boxing, so make sure you like and subscribe to join the fighting community and not miss out on the best MMA content out there. So Conor has been out of the UFC for over 4 years now, recently pulling out of the scheduled Chandler fight, and paired with his 2 straight losses by knockout against Poirier back in 2021, it seemed like Conor was unofficially done from the UFC, especially with his personal life scandals. But huge news broke out from a close business tie in the BKFC, David Feldman. David was on the Ariel Helwani show and he stated that Conor told him that he is back in the testing pool and that he is ready to make his comeback. The return is becoming a reality for Conor, but amidst all this, the timing of headlines could not have been worse. On his 37th birthday, he was spotted with a mystery woman on a beach and later at a restaurant where the two would strategically leave the restaurant at different times to avoid being caught. It was basically the same situation as the CEO of Astronomer Andy Byron cheating on his wife at the Coldplay concert, only this time Conor wasn't really trying to hide it. On top of that, McGregor allegedly sent unsolicited nude photos to a female rapper. Mind you, his wife supported Conor through his case against sexual assault charges with other women, and still after all of this, she wished him a happy birthday on her Instagram. Conor was recently seen trying to console D on his yacht after the allegations, but the fundamental issues that plagued and turned his career around all persist. In MMA, success comes from your mental just as much as it is physical, and the perfect example of this comes from Conor himself. His early days consisted of an ambitious man having something to prove, putting his country Ireland on the map. This motivation and determination is what led him to becoming the face of the UFC and attaining the 2 divisional belts. But within the last 4 years, Conor has been victim to the successes of fame. He bought yachts, he went to numerous parties, cheated on his wife, and dealt with many sexual incidences. This all led him to being out of the ring for over 4 years now, with Conor looking nowhere near the same fighter he once was. But despite all this, it is clear as of now that Conor will likely make a return based off reports from Dana and David Feldman. But with all these incidences occurring within just the past few weeks, the underlying questions on Conor still persist. What does the future look like for McGregor? And can he become that same fighter that ran the UFC as he once was? Well, to start with, let's begin with the potential matchups. The obvious one is Michael Chandler. These two have been set up to fight for years now without it ever materializing. More recently, they were set to fight, but McGregor pulled out because of a toe injury. For Conor's odds, however, this fight is an extremely risky one from a fighting standpoint because Chandler has been extremely active fighting Oliveira and Paddy, although both ended in losses. Chandler is quick and puts everything out on there with the goal of either knocking out or being knocked out, making this fight an extremely dangerous one for Conor, who has been out of the ring for over 4 years now. Another name in the question is Dan Hooker. Early October last year, Dana teased a potential fight between Dan and Conor in Saudi Arabia, but you guys can probably guess, this fight again never materialized. But if this matchup flows through this time, Dan Hooker is on a 3-fight win streak, and snapping this record by Conor can really show his return and possible comeback into the lightweight division. On top of that, beating a notable winning opponent like Dan, it can set up another huge fight which would put Conor in the contender conversations in lightweight if he is able to win in dominant fashion. And for the last potential opponent for Conor, it's Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz recently made headlines on top of all the presidential card noise saying that there ain't nobody else to fight, referring to Conor. This fight will definitely feed headlines because of the history and trilogy between the two, and and it makes sense from a nostalgia standpoint. The issue, however, is not much will materialize for Conor with a win if he wants to progress in the lightweight division compared to the other two fights, and both fighters are almost in the same boat in terms of taking a hit on their legacy with their recent losses and random ventures outside of MMA. It's kind of like a cash grab from a big movie studio remaking a movie strictly due to nostalgia and fan popularity, but the return of McGregor back in that cage is still extremely risky, and he risks entirely putting his legacy and his greatness on the line with a loss. We often see fighters for the love of the sport try to come back, like Mike Tyson and now Manny Pacquiao, but on a lesser scale to McGregor. Tyson somewhat took a hit by losing to Jake Paul and having some rather questionable TV moments, but with McGregor, who is off two extremely disappointing losses, and with all the lifestyle choices and scandals away from the cage, his name is already being disregarded and tarnished, and fighting a one last dance and losing risks taking almost everything away from his career. The quote, "leave the game before the game leaves you," is as real as it gets in this situation, but despite who he fights, Dana said it best: Conor got to a level where he achieved all the money and fame, and the only way to win is to be motivated by something, whether that is to replenish his reputation, make a statement that he has changed and dropped all his bad habits, or if it is simply for his family. Time will only tell with Conor, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. Will Conor bounce back and replenish his MMA career, and who do you think Dana will match Conor up against? If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I love all you guys. Peace.